Sense Radio.
So, who do you laughing at over there?
You.
Why?
With you. Not at you, of course.
Love Matt and Kim. We saw them in concert, didn't we, Denise?
Yeah. Seen them a few times. They're great. Fun.
It really is Matt and Kim. Like, they're like a couple.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen their YouTube videos before. I'm sure it was spectacular live.
Isn't she the drummer?
She is.
Where'd they ever go to? They're still
doing
around?
it. She had she hurt herself. She had a major knee surgery, so they haven't been able to tour and stuff. But I believe she's better. They have some new music out.
They're very entertaining, the couple. Mm-hmm. All right, so who would you consider to be? And I'll just ask you, Katie. Mm-hmm. Okay, since you're young and you have paid attention to history class. Well, what I mean is, like I think you would get it right away, Denise. That's why only because you've been with me, you know.
Yes.
So that's what I don't mean. I'm not trying to age
I'm the
you.
old lady.
No, I don't. I didn't mean it that way.
Okay.
I meant that you're
gonna get
somebody who has just. Yeah.
Who's lived a little longer would know.
Right. So who do you think is when it comes to presidents, okay? I'm not talking about just politicians. Who do you consider to have been in modern presidencies the quintessential conservatives? Who's the person they constantly refer to as being like or want to be like or hold up as the standard bearer of conservatism?
I would say, well, I mean, right now it's Reagan, right? That's what everyone says.
Hold on, I got to get my... Yes, you win! Yes, you win a chance to go rub the belly of the Ronald Reagan bobblehead.
Oh, gosh, I can't wait.
There you go. See, Denise, there was a benefit to you not having to do it because you don't have to go rub the belly of the Ronald Reagan bobblehead.
We got out of that one.
We'll have Mikey do it over here. Mikey likes it. But no, and isn't it interesting because everybody's freaking out over the Donald Trump tariff plan, lumber and steel and aluminum. Okay, and Forbes is even saying, we lived through the Reagan nightmare, and now we have to have trade policies, and now we have to live through this, but there's no comparison to what Ronald Reagan did in terms of his tariffs and the duties he imposed. And actually, they did have a negative impact on the economy, but you have to look at the list of what he did. So really, there's no comparison to what President Trump is doing now to what Ronald Reagan did in the past. And it'll be pretty easy for you to discern that once I give you the list of what Ronald Reagan did, okay? And keep in mind, Ronald Reagan is the god of conservatism. Every radio talk show host, every Republican out there constantly acts like they're the mirror image of the great Ronald Reagan, okay? And I believe that. I think Ronald Reagan was awesome, and so I believe that. But if you're going to do that, and then you're going to attack President Trump over these two things, then you're going to have to know that Ronald Reagan, who's the quintessential conservative, was one of the biggest protectionists and tariff issuers that ever lived. What he's doing, what he did back in the day, is nothing in compared to the tidbits that President Trump is doing. And I'll roll this off to you. First of all, Japan had to restrain their auto exports. He wanted to help the U.S. car makers. Had to do that. He tightened up the quotas on imported sugar. And, of course, imports fell after that, but that strengthened the Florida sugar industry. Just ask Marco Rubio, who is a slave to it now. Anyway, that's another story. Required 18 countries, Brazil, Spain, South Korea, Japan, Mexico, South Africa, Finland, Australia, and the entire European community to accept voluntary restraint agreements to reduce steel imports and would guarantee the domestic producers a share of the American market. When Three countries, Canada, Sweden, and Taiwan, increased steel exports to the U.S. The administration demanded talks to check on the increase. They were all over these guys. Imposed a 5-year duty, 45%, on Japanese motorcycles, just to help Harley-Davidson. He raised taxes on Canadian lumber and even cedar shingles. He forced Japan into an agreement to control the price of computer memory chip exports. And he made the Japanese buy American-made chips, which, by the way, oddly enough, fueled the growth of Silicon Valley, just so you know. Part of the reason why we became an internet giant and Bill Clinton benefited from all of that is because President Reagan ultimately artificially propped up Silicon Valley with his demand that the Japanese buy chips from Americans. He made Japan automakers buy more American-made auto parts. He demanded Taiwan, West Germany, Japan, and Switzerland restrain their exports on machine tools. So drills and things like that. Like, back in those days, if you were going to get a Makita drill or something like that, or some of these other German-made things, which are now flooding the market, by the way, they're all over the place now. You can barely find an American-made machine tool these days. Although you can. I'm just saying that a lot of the foreign guys are taking it over. But anyway, he made them restrain the exports to help these guys. He even harassed the Japanese because they felt like they were dumping color picture TV tubes into the market. He beefed up the Export-Import Bank, which was basically promoting the exports of a handful of large companies at the expense of everything else. And he extended quotas on imported clothespins. I mean, that's how voracious President Reagan was as a duty imposer, as a tariff guy, as a protectionist. Now, keep in mind, you can argue that actually he created a really tough problem for our economy. It wasn't the best in the world, but at the same time, though, he was ultimately having to kind of draw these things back. But this is not. But here's the conservative God, and I just gave you a whole list of what he does, and you've got these guys who would invoke Reagan's name at the drop of a hat, calling President Trump a crazy protectionist. Like the guy you hold up as a god of all conservatism, Trump could live 100 years and put a tariff every year and not compare to what Reagan did. Just food for thought. I'm not saying what Reagan did was right, but let's not pretend that Donald Trump is off the grid with 2 aluminum and steel tariff plans. And the Europeans are like, watch out, because we'll put tariffs on your bourbon. I'm like, go for it. The guy in Scotland's still going to buy American bourbon. I promise you, whether it's $1 more or $2 or $5, they're still going to buy it. 969-9797.